They will smile when they need you. They will curse you when you become too necessary, and they will forget you the moment your shadow no longer stretches across their safety. Such is the rhythm of power. It does not flow from affection. It flows from function. You do not ascend because they love you. You ascend because they cannot move without you. A leader who depends on being liked is already ruled. He stands on a scaffold built from shifting sentiment, waiting for the winds of discontent to blow it to the ground. But the one who becomes indispensable, who weaves himself into the arteries of command, into the logic of the system, he does not beg for allegiance. He becomes the condition of survival. Love is a favor. Necessity is a law. Men obey necessity even when they hate it. They will excuse tyranny if it defends them. They will tolerate cruelty if it protects them from worse. But they will never cling to charm when bullets fly, when famine strikes, when the edifice of order cracks. A prince is not a husband to his people. He is not their friend. He is not their savior. He is a fact immovable, elemental, the embodiment of a structure they cannot dismantle without collapsing themselves. To be necessary is to be feared, not as a monster, but as a force without which the world tilts into chaos. Not fear of the whip, fear of absence. Ask yourself, if you vanished tonight, who would fall? Who would flinch? Who would feel exposed? The answer measures your power. Charm is currency in a marketplace of fools, but in the arena where stakes are measured in empires and ruin, only necessity holds. The clever ruler does not waste time being liked. He builds systems that cannot operate without him. He makes himself the keystone in every arch, the cipher in every lock. People will follow anyone who secures their tomorrow, even if they hate his shadow. They will call him evil in daylight and pray for his return at nightfall. To rule is not to persuade. It is to define the terms of existence. There are those who believe legitimacy springs from consent. They are wrong. Legitimacy springs from permanence. The tree does not ask the grass if it may block the sun. It simply grows tall enough that nothing else can breathe without it. The desire to be loved is human, but power is not human. Power is elemental. It is cruel, detached, indifferent. And the one who survives the longest is not the one with the cleanest conscience. It is the one whose removal would shatter the structure entirely. This is why betrayal is not personal. It is structural. Those who depend on affection are always betrayed, because affection is given freely, and what is given freely is withdrawn easily. But fear is maintained through systems, through consequences, through leverage. It is not enough to inspire fear. One must structure it, institutionalize it. Make it logical, even beautiful, so that those who feel it also feel the safety it provides. This is the paradox. They will fear you, and they will need you. And in their secret heart, they will love you for that. The man who is loved may die in exile. The man who is necessary dies in office. So cultivate usefulness, not charm. Loyalty bought with affection fades. Loyalty forged in necessity endures. The wise ruler does not waste blood on appearances. He turns his face into the clock, cold, regular, impossible to ignore. Understand this. People desire safety more than virtue, control more than truth. Hunger will always break the spine of principle. Fear will always seal the mouth of outrage. He who satisfies fear holds the leash of obedience. And yet you must not confuse necessity with cruelty. A cruel man is disposable. A necessary man is irreplaceable. The difference lies in structure. Cruelty is an indulgence. Necessity is a system. The latter can be inherited, institutionalized, sustained. The true strategist does not conquer through hatred or through love. He conquers through dependency. He builds the very roads upon which others must walk. And when the time comes, he does not need to shout. He simply withholds. Power is not a thing. It is a condition, a relationship, a structure. To endure, you must not only possess it, you must become the condition itself. You must be the answer to their questions, the spine of their order, the cost of rebellion, become so entangled with the machinery that even your enemies fear your fall, not for your sake, but for what comes after. Do not sell hope, sell outcomes. Do not beg to be heard, control the silence. Do not fight for trust. Make yourself the only one left who can be trusted with what they need most. You win by being necessary, not by being liked. And those who do not understand this will spend their lives dancing for applause until the music stops and no one remembers the dancer's name. The art of survival lies not in the clamor of ideals, but in the quiet architecture of control. You must weave yourself so tightly into the sinews of the state, the organization, the tribe, that to remove you is to amputate their own limbs. Sentiment fades, but utility persists. A ruler who depends on the tide of affection builds his house on sand. When the winds change, he is swept away, his name spoken only as a warning. But the ruler who becomes indispensable is like the cornerstone, buried deep in the foundation, unseen, uncelebrated, but impossible to extract without bringing the whole structure down. The wise understand that men are not loyal by nature. They are loyal because the alternative terrifies them, because the cost of betrayal outweighs the price of obedience. You do not need to be their friend. You need to be the gravity that holds their world together. When you succeed in this, they may hate you in whispers, but they will defend you in action. They will curse you as a tyrant in the market and kneel before you in the council hall. They will fantasize about your fall but tremble at the thought of what your absence might unleash. To lead is not to inspire devotion, but to eliminate alternatives. The wolf does not ask the sheep to love him. He ensures there are no other predators to whom they might turn. He does not plead for their trust. He makes it impossible for them to survive without his shadow watching the forest. This is not cruelty. It is order. It is the only balance in a world that devours the weak. Do not be seduced by the applause of the crowd. Their hands will turn to fists the moment they sense weakness. Applause is a drug for those too timid to command. You must be colder than that, more enduring. A ruler intoxicated by approval is already bleeding power. He forgets that the crowd applauds executioners as easily as saviors, that they cheer most loudly when the blade falls, not knowing on whose neck it will land next. Fear, properly cultivated, is not rage or chaos. It is a quiet pressure that tightens the bonds of loyalty. The wise leader does not rule through terror, but through inevitability. You do not need to roar. You need only make them believe there is no path forward but through you. Fear of chaos, fear of rivals, fear of collapse. These are the pillars that hold empires upright. Men will forgive many sins if you keep the darkness at bay. But power must be tended like fire. Too weak, and it dies, leaving you in the cold. Too wild, and it burns the very house you built. The delicate hand adjusts the flame, feeds it enough to keep the room warm, but not so much that it consumes the walls. This is the discipline of command, the refusal to indulge in excess, even as others beg you to show mercy or destruction. The greatest strength lies not in raw force, but in restraint sharpened to a blade. Understand this. Betrayal is not a flaw in human nature. It is human nature. Affection is a veil that slips when interests change. Today's ally is tomorrow's assassin if the balance of advantage shifts. Do not waste energy lamenting this truth. Use it. Anticipate it. Make betrayal costlier than loyalty. Build networks of dependency so intricate that even your enemies benefit from your survival. When you can make even traitors hesitate, you have grasped the essence of statecraft. To endure is not to be pure. It is to be necessary. In the theater of power, actors come and go, but the stage itself never falls. Be the stage, be the conditions. Be the unspoken rule that shapes every decision in the room. Men may come to fear you, but they will also fear your absence, and that is the deeper loyalty. Do not seek to be loved. That is the ambition of children and poets. Seek to be obeyed, because obedience is the only currency that does not devalue in crisis, and do not confuse obedience with servitude. The strong obey when the system makes disobedience irrational. Build that system. Bind their fates so tightly to your own that to strike at you is to destroy themselves. The world does not forgive the weak. It does not honor the pure. It remembers only those who shaped it, for better or worse. You cannot shape it with clean hands. You cannot shape it by being loved. You shape it by holding the levers that no one else dares touch, by becoming the indispensable architect of their survival. The ruler's path is lonely because it must be. Friendship clouds judgment, love makes you hesitate, compassion blinds you to necessity. The higher you climb, the colder the air becomes, until only the ruthless and the disciplined can breathe it without faltering. Do not curse this coldness, embrace it. It will preserve you when the fires of sentiment burn out. They will call you ruthless. They will call you cold. Let them. Those words are a confession of their dependence. They fear your power because it reveals their weakness. They resent your control because they cannot imagine life without it, and when the day comes that you are gone, they will weep for the tyrant they thought they hated, for the order they never understood you maintained. Power is not about victory. It is about permanence. To win once is nothing. To remain unshaken as the years grind your enemies into dust, that is the true triumph. And you do not remain by being loved. You remain by being necessary. The moment you allow yourself to believe you are loved for who you are, you have already stepped off the path. You are not loved. You are tolerated as long as you serve a purpose. And when that purpose dissolves, so will their smiles. The banquet of affection is poisoned. It is prepared for you only so long as you feed the hunger of others. Stop feeding them, and watch how quickly the banquet hall empties, the wine soured, the toasts silenced. To lead is to accept that every loyalty is transactional, that every oath sworn in your name is a calculation, not a devotion. Do not resent this. It is not treachery, it is nature. Even the sun is worshipped only because it gives light and warmth. Take away the light, and the same creatures who sang its praises would curse it in the darkness. This is why a wise ruler does not trust in words, or in the trembling hands that reach for his own in moments of victory. He trusts only in structures, in chains invisible to the eye, yet unbreakable to the will. Structures that compel loyalty not through the heart, but through the gut, through fear, through necessity, through the quiet knowledge that without him, all collapses. Do not waste your breath demanding gratitude. Gratitude is the rarest of currencies, and it does not buy survival. A ruler who demands gratitude will find himself staring into the eyes of a knife he never saw coming. Instead, demand reliance, demand necessity. Be so enmeshed in their safety that they cannot cut you away without severing themselves. Those who say they love you will be the first to flee when the storm breaks. Those who fear the cost of your loss will build walls to keep you in place. Fear is the architect of order. Properly shaped, it does not lead to rebellion, but to quiet submission. And you, the ruler, must be its sculptor, carving it into a form that both protects and binds. Even mercy is a tool of fear. When you pardon, do not do it to be loved. Pardon only to remind them that you could have destroyed them, that their life is a gift you can just as easily retract. True mercy is not softness. It is a demonstration of dominance, a warning dressed in benevolence. The theater of appearances is essential, but it is not the core. Appearances are for the audience, structures are for survival. A fool dazzled by his own reflection in the mirror of public adoration will not notice the cracks in his throne until it collapses. The wise ruler uses appearances as a mask, not as a shield. Behind the mask, his hands are always tightening the levers of control. Never confuse the theater for the war. The crowd will cheer a ruler who makes them laugh, who gives them bread and games. But when the gates of the city fall and the enemy is at the door, they will not call for the jester. They will call for the one they fear, for the one who made himself the wall against chaos. And yet, fear alone is not enough. Fear without structure is rage waiting to explode. You must give them not only something to fear, but something to lose. You must bind their fortunes, their families, their future to your survival. A man will risk much to destroy what he hates, but he will hesitate if the destruction will also consume everything he loves. Power is not seized once. It is seized every day, in every decision, in every relationship, in every whisper that circulates through the corridors of influence. You cannot rest on yesterday's victories. You must entrench yourself so deeply that the cost of removing you is higher than the cost of enduring you. This is the cruel mathematics of command. They will hate you for what you take from them, but they will depend on you for what you provide. As long as the balance tips in your favor, you endure. When the balance tips against you, you fall. Your task is to keep the scale weighted so heavily on necessity that it never dares tilt. To rule is to be alone in a room full of allies. Allies who would trade your life for their advantage if they believed they could survive the firestorm that follows. Your power lies not in their affection, but in convincing them that to harm you is to destroy themselves. This is why the ruler must be both loved and feared. But if he cannot be both, let him be feared. Fear is the stronger bond because it requires no reciprocity. Love demands constant nourishment. Fear sustains itself. Love is a fragile glass. Fear is a chain of iron. And yet, even as you cultivate fear, you must wear the mask of reason. The tyrant who rules through naked terror alone digs his own grave. He creates enemies too desperate to live under his shadow, and desperation breeds recklessness. Do not make men reckless. Make them cautious. Make them weigh the consequences and find no path forward but through your will. To be necessary is to become the axis of their world. When they plan, let them plan around you. When they dream, let their dreams hinge on your permission. When they rebel in thought, let the imagined cost of action be so steep that thought never becomes deed. Do not expect peace. A ruler has no peace, only pauses between storms. Do not crave love. A ruler has no love, only alliances dressed as friendships. Do not wish for understanding. A ruler has no equals, only subordinates and rivals. You may ask, what then remains? What remains is permanence. What remains is the cold satisfaction of knowing you endure while others crumble. What remains is the quiet knowledge that you are the spine of order in a world that would otherwise collapse into ruin. To rule is not to be adored. To rule is to be the axis around which all else turns. Even if they curse you, even if they dream of your end, as long as they cannot act on those dreams without annihilating themselves, you remain. That is the essence of command. That is how you win. You win by being necessary, not by being liked. Every day you sit upon the seat of power, you are tested, not by enemies alone, but by the unseen erosion that affection brings. To be liked is intoxicating. It seduces the mind into weakness. It whispers to you that their smiles mean safety. But smiles are easy gifts. Smiles cost them nothing. Fear, however, is costly. Fear is an investment. It anchors their loyalty, not in their hearts, but in their bones, where instinct lives. The ruler who survives longest is not the one who inspires love, but the one who makes himself impossible to discard. He does not need them to sing his praises. He needs them to wake every morning with the silent realization that their fortunes, their lives, their very sense of order rests upon his continued dominion. That is the deepest kind of security, not the applause of the mob, but the knowledge that they cannot breathe without you. Even your enemies must learn to depend on you. That is mastery. A ruler who is feared can suppress a rebellion. A ruler who is necessary prevents it from forming, because the would-be rebels fear what the world becomes without him. The truly cunning ruler does not merely crush opposition. He arranges things so that opposition would be self-destruction. Think of nature. The great tree does not ask the forest for permission to grow. It stretches upward, blocking out the sun, forcing weaker plants to curl around its roots for the faint scraps of light it allows through. They depend on its height, its branches, even as they resent its shadow. Should the tree fall, it will crush them as surely as it crushes itself. And so they cling to its base, muttering their hatred but never daring to cut it down. This is how you must shape your reign. Make yourself the axis upon which all things turn. Weave yourself into the arteries of their trade, their security, their future. When they ask themselves, "What if he fell?" let them see only ruin. When they whisper of your faults, let their voices falter at the thought of what comes after. You will be called cruel for this. Let them call you what they wish. Names are weapons for the powerless, noise in the mouths of those who must still obey. Do not answer their accusations. Answer with permanence. When your enemies shout, remind them not with words, but with consequences that you are the pillar holding their ceiling aloft. If they strike, they risk bringing it all down upon their heads. Love is fickle. Love is fragile. It demands constant proofs and new gifts. One mistake, and it vanishes like mist at dawn. Fear, properly constructed, requires no such tending. It renews itself every time they calculate the cost of defiance and decide it is too high. But hear this warning. Fear is a delicate instrument. Wielded without thought, it becomes terror, and terror breeds desperation. Desperation makes men bold, makes them risk everything because they believe they have nothing left to lose. A wise ruler avoids this. He keeps fear measured, balanced with hope. He lets them dream of comfort, of stability, but only through him. He is not the executioner, he is the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper does not need to scream or strike. He need only stand, immovable, and remind them that without him, the gates will open to chaos. In this way, even mercy serves as a weapon. Grant mercy not because you are kind, but because it binds them closer. When you pardon, let it be known you do so not out of weakness, but out of strength, that their lives continue because you allow it, and that allowance can be withdrawn. To rule is to understand that the theater of morality is for the governed, not for the governor. The governed want stories of good and evil, of justice and injustice. They crave the illusion of virtue because it soothes them, but a ruler who believes his own myths is already lost. Power does not belong to the virtuous, it belongs to the necessary. A virtuous ruler is expendable the moment his virtue no longer serves their interests. A necessary ruler remains even when they curse his name, for the alternative terrifies them more than his rule. Do not seek fairness, do not seek purity, seek equilibrium. Balance fear and hope, balance cruelty and generosity. Keep them off balance enough to depend on you, but not so much that they seek your destruction as their only salvation. You must understand, there is no final victory in power. There is no moment of rest where the throne is secure forever. Power is a perpetual struggle. Each day is a battle to entrench yourself deeper, to prevent rivals from emerging, to reinforce the structures that bind others to your will. Your throne is not made of gold or marble. It is made of relationships, dependencies, and fears. Gold can be stolen, marble can be shattered, but when you weave yourself into the fabric of their survival, even your enemies will hesitate to cut you down. This is why a ruler must learn patience. Do not rush to crush every rival. Sometimes it is wiser to let them linger, to let them see that even in opposition, they are safer under your shadow. Make them understand that rebellion will not set them free. It will only expose them to worse predators. In the end, what they call you does not matter. Tyrant, savior, monster, protector. These are words they trade among themselves to mask the truth they cannot face. They need you. They cannot live without you. And that is how you endure. You win by being necessary, not by being liked. And so it ends where it began, with necessity. You will not be remembered for your warmth. You will not be loved for your sacrifices. They will not build statues to honor your kindness. Statues are for those who entertained them, who made them feel righteous in the moment, and whose names they curse under their breath as the world crumbles again into dust. No, your work is not for their memory. It is for their survival, though they will never admit it. You are not here to win their hearts. You are here to hold their world together with hands they fear too much to bite. One day, you too will die. The throne will grow cold. The corridors you paced will echo with other voices. And still, if you have done your work well, they will live within the architecture you built. They will call it order, tradition, law. They will not see your fingerprints on every stone, your shadow in every law they obey, your ghost in every calculation of fear and hope. They will think they have freed themselves, but they will speak in the language you taught them, move along the paths you carved, breathe the air you preserved. This is the immortality of the necessary, not the immortality of name, but of design. You will not be liked, you will not even be loved, but you will be essential. And that is how you win. You win by being necessary, not by being liked.